Paranormal Activity 4 is the first true sequel in the Paranormal Activity franchise. All the other quote-unquote sequels have been prequels. It's about this family who has this small kid in the neighborhood whose mother's gone to the hospital. So he stays at this family's house. The family's daughter and her boyfriend start sensing weird things going on in the house, so they start an investigation by setting up web cameras to watch over the house. I was looking forward to this movie, basically because the three first movies were fun times. Even the second one was fun, until it got boring. Basically, the thing about these movies is that they're different from other horror movies. They're different from other found footage movies even. They're also creepy as hell. The first Paranormal Activity is one of the creepiest movies I've ever seen. The second movie is much less scarier because it was about a family and not a couple, and the third movie just shoved all this suspense in your face that it was almost unbearable at times. With Paranormal Activity 4, it goes back a notch with the suspense from the previous movie and makes it a bit more like Paranormal Activity 2. On paper that sounds like a bad thing, but this movie is better than 2. First of all, because of the creative use of Microsoft Kinect. That was cool, and made for the creepiest images in the film. Also, the main characters are two teenagers, which were both really likable, especially the guy, he was awesome. And I could relate to these characters more than I could with any of the previous characters in the first three films. Paranormal Activity 4 is definitely a flawed movie though. While it is a fun time, it goes downhill towards the last 30 minutes. What's supposed to be the suspenseful climax turns into the most boring part of the movie. The ending is fast-paced and a little creepy, but not in the way these movies should be. It was more action-packed than scary. But this was also a problem the two previous movies had. They had a good or even great setup, but the last 30 minutes or so were either boring or so in your face that it became more like an action movie and less like horror. In the case of Paranormal Activity 2 and 3, both those movies were so in your face towards the end that it was almost laughable. Speaking of laughable, but in the good way, Paranormal Activity 4 is really funny. It has some hilarious lines, and it is really self-aware, which is good because when you've come as far as the fourth movie, it's hard to take it seriously. Paranormal Activity 4 is overall a pretty fun time. Although the climax is boring and the lack of poltergeist scenes is disappointing, it has great main characters and some creative scares, while still having a lot of dumb jump scares. Go see it if you're a fan.